Hey metalheads, you like tattoos? Of course you do. If you're in the Louisville, Kentucky area, come on over the bridge to Clarksville, Indiana, and get you some ink done at Ageless Art. If ink isn't your thing, they have a piercing studio as well. Visit agelessartclarksville.com to see some frequently asked questions, meet the staff. The shop is open Monday through Thursday, 12 to 8 p.m., Saturdays, 12 to 10 p.m., and Sundays, 12 to 6 p.m., all appointment-only spots. You can set up your appointments by phone at 812-283-1793 or email agelessarttattooandpiercing@gmail.com and someone will get you set up for your first or your next tattoo or piercing.
Hey, it's Jeff McNichol down here at Mom's Music, 1900 Melwood Avenue. I was just thinking, when I was a kid, the magic was at Frankfort Avenue, the Mom's Music at Frankfort Avenue, and I used to beg people to get a ride down there just to hang out with the guys and see all the cool gear. Now that I'm the owner of this store, it's like a dream come true. We're recreating the magic with the vibe that we used to have at the old store. We're carrying all the gear that you're going to possibly want. We're giving you the outstanding service and personal attention that you deserve. Yeah, so we've got the great guitar shop here. We're carrying USA Fender, USA Gibson, Paul Reed Smith, Gretsch, Jackson, Charvel, anything you could possibly want, we're going to have it for you. Mom's is, and always will be, Louisville's music store.
Thank you for tuning into the Metal Forge. I am Mark Jackson and I am your host. The premise of the show is pretty simple. Awesome interviews and awesome music. If you want to contact me, hit me up at metalforgeradio@gmail.com or visit the website metalforgeradio.com. And now, let's get this show on the road. What is going on, metalheads? Thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of the Metal Forge. My name is Mark Jackson and I am your host. Today I have Vic, the awesome upright bass player and vocalist to the Koffin Kats, here in the Metal Forge with us today, and we're going to be talking about their upcoming tour with Reverend Horton Heat and some more awesome stuff. He's such a cool dude. I got a chance to see them back in January. It was my second time seeing them, and they've got a couple of shows coming up here that I'm going to be going to as well. It's such a fun band. If you're into psychobilly, graveyard punk type stuff, you would definitely love this band. It's so cool to just watch bands like a three-piece band that's like this that just gets up and just fucking jams. It's like fucking thrash the whole way through, you know? It's so fun to see them play. Before we get into any of that today, I've got a new episode of the Heavy Metal Wasteland with Jason Gardner coming, so we'll check in with him here in just a few minutes. I did say last week about a partnership opportunity that has arisen for the Metal Forge, and it is with SHURE microphones. Super fun stuff, so please click the links below for SHURE, and you know, whatever you buy from them, if you buy a podcasting rig, if you get into, you know, if you're a vocalist or anything like that, consider getting some awesome mics from them. Click the link below. Anything that you buy from them, they give me 10% on that sale. It's super cool. It helps the Metal Forge out, and it helps you out because I believe you also get a little bit of a better deal by clicking my link. So please click that link and help out the Metal Forge wherever you can. I appreciate it so much. Thank you all. So I did say on the last few episodes that I would be attending Hell's Heroes 4 in Houston. And unfortunately, I've had some stuff come up where I was unable to make it down there. So I'm not going to be going this year. But next week, I will be featuring Christian Larson on the Metal Forge. You know, Christian is in the band Night Cobra. You may have heard them in the archives when he was back in, I believe, in 2020 on the show. Super cool dude. We're going to be talking about the show and what's you guys are going to be able to see while you're there. Fun stuff, awesome all around. So let's go ahead and check in with Jason Gardner in the Heavy Metal Wasteland.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Wasteland. Before we get into this week's pick, I'd like to do a PSA for the drummer for the band LoPan. His name is Jesse Barts. As you know, underground musicians don't make a ton of money, if any at all, and I'd like to direct your attention to his GoFundMe set up in his name. At the time of this airing, he will have already undergone surgery for cancer treatment, and as you know, the bills will be waiting on the other side. The link is gofund.me/F1660F90. That's gofund.me/F1660F90. Please spare what you can, it all adds up, or if you're not into the online fundraiser avenue, you can always go buy some digital downloads from their Bandcamp at lopanmusic.bandcamp.com. It all helps him with his wife and 2 small kids make it through this terrible situation. So, on to the review for today. I want to tell you about a young up-and-coming band from my area called Oblivion Throne. This is a 3-piece speed metal band in the vein of Exciter, and the recording lineup consists of Alex on guitar and vocals, Elon on drums, and Justin on bass. Their latest release, Marauder, is out now. It's self-recorded and released. This release follows up their 2021 demo, Infernal Savage, and that was my introduction to the band last summer. It consists of 6 tracks and clocks in about 26 minutes. This album is pretty raw, and that's both a benefit and maybe a hindrance to listeners of this album. First, let's start out with the positives. The album is concise, and every track, except for an instrumental track called Selva Oscura, has plenty of meat on the bones for those who worship a truly great riff. And this album is a treasure trove of that. It reminded me of early Bathory or Celtic Frost when it came to the vocal delivery and the sound of the album. If you're not into those kind of bands, this album probably isn't for you. But that's okay. Not everything is made for everybody. The album is pretty ferocious sounding, wasting no time getting right to what Oblivion Throne is all about, which obviously is melting faces like all bands who play at higher BPMs. The drumming on this album really pushes the guitars really hard, almost stealing the show in my opinion, but the riff is always the star of the song, 9 times out of 10. The bass is no letdown either. It's right there with the drums and the guitar, fast, loose, in the pocket, kind of giving it that live feel. Now on the other side of the coin, places I personally thought this could be improved. This project being from a band who is pretty much just starting out, I totally get the self-made recording route. But I really do think this album would have benefited from somebody mixing with a fresh set of ears to the material before having this mastered. There's places in the album where it goes into wall of noise sounds for a few bars before going back to be able to distinguish all 3 parts and vocals. As far as the production goes, it's very much a love or hate it kind of sound. Me personally, I don't mind it, but if I had some more polish on it, say like early Overkill or Testament, or maybe even like Kill 'Em All, I think it would have been a great benefit for this band and album. I'm sure I'm not alone in this way of thinking when it comes to production values. Overall though, I do like this release a lot. The songs are a labor of love and come from a place of inspiration from days of metal past. The artwork is killer, the whole vibe and look of the band, and their merch is fun and very metal. Be sure to follow them and buy their music on Bandcamp or stream it on the platform of your choice. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Wasteland. Just want to remind everyone out there to stay safe and stay heavy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jason, for turning us on to Oblivion Throne and letting us know about Jesse's fundraiser. So please, if you can, get some help out to Jesse and check out this awesome new band. So let's go ahead and get into the Koffin Kats. This is Go for Bad.
Just an inch from the rushing water, run up before you take the leap.
All right, metalheads, this is a little bit of a different week this week because I have Vic, the voice and the bass of the Koffin Kats, Midwest psychobilly. Dude, what's going on?
Oh, just hanging out in my basement.
Yeah, I mean, I see records on the wall. You've got the foam. Looks like the EVA floor mat foam on the ceiling for sound protection and stuff.
Yeah, when the whole lockdown thing happened and all that, I had a lot of spare time, so I went about and built a studio in my basement.
Nice. So have you recorded anything from there?
Yes. Yep. I've actually tracked a couple buddies' bands, and I've done a lot of demo work for Koffin Kats down here, and what will be eventually some new releases for next year.
Absolutely. See, that's what it's all about. The whole dynamic has changed, that you don't necessarily have to go to a studio anymore because we all have podcasting gear on our laptops these days that is just right there. And it's all affordable that you can just do it on your own anymore. You just pay for the engineer at that point, or the mixing and mastering, I guess.
Yeah. And that's where I cut the cost, because I for the past probably about 8 years, I've actually been studying audio engineering. You get a lot of downtime when you're on the road, and so I decided to try to start utilizing that downtime a little bit more properly, and started studying audio engineering and all that stuff. And so
it is a lost art form, really, because like so many like frequency things where it's just like, putting something on a certain bus because it might be a -3 dB, but just that whole weird science behind it that just goes over my head completely. I'm just a dumb bass player. I'm like, plug me in direct, let me cut my track in as little as it takes as possible, and I'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Once I figured out what a compressor did, I was like, okay, I think I understand this now.
Right. For sure. Tell everybody out in Metal Forge land about the Koffin Kats, because you guys are like 19-ish years old at this point.
Yes. Yeah. So we started in June of 2003, and we were big punk rock fans, and we were also rockabilly, psychobilly fans, and decided to merge our likes together, and that's what created the Koffin Kats. And at that point in time, in 2003, you had bands like Tiger Army and Necromantics, and some European bands like Mad Sin coming over to the States. And so there was, I'd say that was kind of like when psychobilly in the United States was at its height. And we were able to kind of ride that wave as a brand new band. We started touring heavily in 2004. And we toured nonstop throughout the early 2000s and throughout 2010, and up till now we just toured heavy, and we were able to kind of build our own crowd that is a mixture of anything from punk rockers to metalheads to country fans to whatever. It's been a really cool thing to see over the years. Definitely,
which is a great thing because, I am a huge metalhead fan, and I like, of course, I don't know what you would call like graveyard punk, like the Misfits or whatever like that. But even I like to come out to see you guys play because you have so much high energy that you look for the person that seems like they're not entertained and you entertain them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that, the idea from that used to come from like, we used to play, we still play pretty much anywhere, but the sound quality would be so bad that it was like, well, at least give them something to watch,
for sure,
something that they can watch. But no, I mean, we do it because we love it. We get up there and we have a great engaging time. And I always remember back to the shows that when I first started going to the shows that I still remember to this day, I can vividly remember is when watching a band be on stage looking like they want to be on stage and looking like they're having a good time. And there's just an amazing connection that being in the crowd and having a good time with the band on stage, you'll never forget that. And that's one of those things of like when newer bands ask advice and stuff like that, I go, have a good time up there. And no matter what kind of a day you're having, or if you had a flat tire on the way to the gig, or if the transmission's broken down in front of the club, forget about that. You're on stage. Have a good time, because people paid money to see you, and they paid money so that they can have a good time. And that's just something we live by.
Definitely. And I will second that 100%, because I have always said any 5 dudes can get on stage and play music. Look like you're there, be a part of the show, be who people have come to pay money to see. You know, the show is part of it.
Yeah. I mean, we're all blue collar guys. We, I mean, we worked well under $15 an hour for a long, long time. So we know what it's like to, you know, drop $20 on a ticket, or, you know, $10 on a ticket, and have the show suck and be like, oh, that was a waste.
Right.
Know?
Absolutely. You said that, you know, you were doing some demo work and everything, and possibly next year coming out with a new album. But here in the next month, in May and in June, you've got some shows with the Reverend Horton Heat coming up on tour. Yep.
And that's so we've been doing tours with Reverend Horton Heat off and on for about the past 8 or 9 years. And every time we go out, it's like a dream come true, because that was the band that got me into all of this. That's the band that lit the spark as far as wanting to play an upright bass. And that all stemmed back to I was about 10 or 11 years old, and we had finally gotten cable in the house. And one of the first shows I saw on TV was Beavis and Butthead. And one of the first music videos that I saw them do their thing with was Psychobilly Freakout. And that always stuck with me. And, so the Reverend Horton Heat was a name that stuck in my head, that when I was old enough to start buying, you know, tapes and CDs myself, I picked up all of his stuff, and that's pretty much what got me into all of this.
That's amazing, because not with Beavis and Butthead, but I remember seeing something on TV about the same time period. I was about 10, 11, 12 years old. We had just got cable for the first time, and I think it was an interview with Lemmy, and at that point in time, that's when I really had noticed Motorhead for me. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I want to be that.
and my first exposure to Motorhead was from Beavis and Butthead.
That's amazing.
It's funny that show, the music videos that they were watching, that exposed me to so much new music, everything from Pantera to Ween, to
Judas Priest, yeah, Motorhead,
yeah. So, you know, I grew up in Metro Detroit, but I grew up in an area that, like, not necessarily rural, but like not where I didn't grow up in a neighborhood, so I didn't really have like other kids or older kids like influencing me for music wise and stuff. I had to find out a lot of this stuff by myself, and so it was through memorizing these goofy music videos and stuff. And when I would finally go to the store, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. That's that band. I'm going to check this out. And hey, Mom, can you buy me this tape? Can you buy me this CD? That type of thing. You know, it seems so weird to say now, but this is pre-internet. This is where you had to go find this stuff.
Right.
You know? And this stuff that wasn't on the radio either. You know?
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure you, just like most of us did, you probably started purchasing albums from just the cover.
Absolutely.
You know, like Hell O by Gwar. You know, that cover alone, because it's so busy. You know, that I bought that on just like, what is this?
Yep. And you know what's funny too is, and I think it's kind of a lost art in that the crapshoot of buying something on those terms of saying, well, this looks kind of cool, flipping it over, and wow, the band looks kind of cool. And the fact that you dropped, you know, 10 or 20 bucks on this CD, and you made yourself like it.
Right.
You played it enough times to find the good in it, or at least find a good track here and there.
Right, because you spent that money and you're just like, I'm gonna get my money's value out of this.
Yep.
I used to work in a record store part-time, and I would just go grab random stuff off of the shelf just to play it, like Axe. and just crazy bands that like I've never heard of, but it's in there and it's like a $6 record. So It's like, I'm not going to spend the $6 on it. I want to see what it is first.
Yep.
And
I worked at a record shop as well. I did the exact same thing.
Oh, sure. And I mean, it's like you find out so many artists and you see somebody that you know is like either, you know, a punker or a metalhead or whoever just going and you're like, oh, man, do you sure you really want that? But you don't want to say that, man, do you really want that? Because people like what they like and are allowed to, but it's just like, you know. That's total good stuff.
I was going to say, circling back, I ran a soft course there. Yes, we are going out with Reverend Horton Heat, and we're doing the Northeast and kind of down south into the Carolinas with him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, ironically enough, the last show that it shows on the tour is in New Albany, Indiana.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Which is like a mile from my house. It's probably not even a mile from my house.
Yep. And it's funny because that show was originally booked in Louisville.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, it's out of our hands, but it was, the club was moved. And then people were firing up our social media going, what happened to a Louisville show? And then I pulled up maps and I go, well, it looks like it's just across that river right there. So I would still say that we're coming near you. Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I don't know how it is there. Or anything, but like in the division of that river between Indiana and Kentucky, it's crazy. You get, I'll never go to Indiana. You know, you get those Kentucky people that are like that, and you got the Indiana people who are the same way. Oh, nothing ever good happened out of over crossing that bridge. It's like crazy shit, but like
it's the same thing when we do Cincinnati, but we play in Covington, which is just across the river. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So many bands, it's labeled as Cincinnati, but it's actually Northern Kentucky.
Yep.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day. All with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, Metalheads, it's with great pleasure I get to tell you guys about a new sponsor to the Metal Forge, Ageless Art, New Albany. After 20 years of owning and operating Ageless Art in Clarksville, Indiana, Phil Garrett had a vision for a new type of tattoo studio. Something that is clean and modern, sleek, refined, inviting. And he's done just that with Ageless Art in New Albany. You can find it at 2736 Charlestown Road, New Albany, Indiana, 47150. Business hours are Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sundays are 12 to 6. All sessions are appointment only, so give them a call and go get you some new ink. Or if it's your first time, go get your first one, baby.
Hey guys, Wrestling Steve of the Wrestling Steve Show here. So if you're currently listening to the Metal Forge with Mark Jackson, then you understand that Mark Jackson has a pretty discerning taste when it comes to music as a whole. You'll also understand that he has a discerning taste for professional wrestling, just like me. My show is called The Wrestling Steve Show. I talk about modern and classic pro wrestling in a completely unbiased, unfiltered way. Be sure to check me out on all available podcasting platforms. That is The Wrestling Steve Show. And I am the host, Wrestling Steve. Just remember, like Confucius said, man who goes through turnstile in Thailand is going to Bangkok. Pro wrestling.
So the upright bass. I'm a bass player as well. And I've always wanted to get into playing upright bass, but I can't get that snap thing going. What made, other than the music of like Reverend Horton Heat and stuff like that, did you already play bass prior to picking up an upright?
No, I played guitar. I started out playing guitar, and that was kind of I played guitar in like high school punk bands and stuff like that before having an upright. But the thing that I always liked about the upright was the percussive element, that slap sound.
Right.
And I love percussive instruments. I am an absolutely terrible drummer, and I cannot keep a beat for shit. But I can keep a beat with an upright bass, and even funk electric slap bass, I really can't do that, but I just love that sound. I love bass instruments with that percussiveness, and the upright bass played with the slap style that's what does it.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. I cannot play drums for shit. I would love to be able to play slap bass, but I just can't do it. I watch people do it, and I'm like, how? I mean, yeah. I get like the fundamentals. I get it's the snaps. I can't. My fingers don't work that way.
Yeah, it's a technique that is somewhat similar to it's somewhat similar to like funk bass. At least the technique that I play when it comes to slapping, because you can without trying to unlock a molehill here. Right. Upright bass, you can have high tension strings where you really got to slam your hand down on those strings and get like a chunka sound. But I play light tension strings, so they allow me to kind of use my fingers to do the slap, and that's why I can get very fast, like triplet style slaps that you might hear, and play with the speed that we play. Is because I'm using a very light tension nylon string.
Okay. And I was going to ask you about that as well, about with the nylon versus flat wound steel strings, if you did that.
If I played steel strings doing what we do, you would see my bones on my finger.
Probably, for sure. Yeah, I could definitely get that.
Or I'd be flinging blood on the crowd every night, which would be when I was first learning. That's before I understood that there were things of nylon strings available for upright basses. When I was first learning, it was on steel strings, and there were many broken blisters and bloody hands and stuff.
For sure. Now, most of the bands that I've seen play upright bass, for one, they have a gigantic ass tour vehicle, because the thing is so big anyways, or else you've got it strapped to the top in a hard shell case. But you put a lot of people put a lot of abuse on their uprights, especially in bands such as yours and some other ones like I've seen. So do you have to like repair yours, or is it just one of those things where you just try to take care of it as much as possible, or how many of you went through?
I'm on bass, probably, I think bass number 12. Within almost 24 years of playing, that's not too bad considering
that's one every 2 years.
Here's the thing, is that I my very, very first upright that I saved up money for. I worked a really crappy job. I saved up every penny and bought it. And it was my precious. This is my bass. And then after the first couple scratches happened, I was like, all right, well, this is just going to happen. I'm going to have to accept it. And then when I broke it, it shattered apart, and I had to rebuild it. I was like, okay, this is the life I'm going to lead with these instruments, because this is just going to happen. And it's something where it's like, yeah, I wouldn't take a $4,000 Gretsch guitar to a punk rock show. And it's just these instruments, they're made, you know what you're signing them up for. They're made to be played. And I stopped worrying a long time ago about putting scratches and stuff. And so my basses are glued and screwed together, Home Depot luthier, whatever I need to do to get the job done. And I've become the master of the hack job as far as making sure that they just work. And and you say it's in so like we have equipment that lives in Vegas for when we do West Coast tours, and I don't even have a case for that upright. We just throw it on top of all the gear when we pile it into the van. That's
like, great.
When we were like touring 10 months out of the year, we had a van and trailer rig. And so when the bass would live in the trailer, I do have a flight case that lives in because those trailers bounce around so much. But now these days we tour in rental vans or U-Haul cargo vans because they're cheaper. And we just basically load all the merch up in the back, all the gear and merch up in the back, and slide the bass on top of it.
For sure. Now, what in the instance of European tours? Have you all been out of the States?
Yes. Yep. We've done 13 European tours.
Okay.
And we have equipment that I haven't seen it in quite some time, but we have equipment that lives in Bologna, Italy.
Okay.
And I have a bass out there, and I have we have some amps and stuff, and some guitars that live out there. And the last tour that we did, I believe it was 2018 over there, and then the pandemic happened, and then we just haven't. We will be back there eventually. Just nothing in the works right now.
Understandable. Yeah, hopefully next year that'll be something that you all can do. With everything changing, like with the new flight stuff and all of that.
Yeah, we didn't want to. So when I'm sure people are sick of hearing about pandemic stuff and all that. I won't go on too much about it, but like we learned our lesson as far as when all this stuff came down and lockdowns happened. We had 2 full tours booked, and that was all that work was lost. Everything was lost, and so we definitely didn't want to book anything. We're still really cautious about booking anything European until we know for a fact that this is behind us, and that because our luck, we would book something that would be going over for 3 or 4 weeks, and then another something would break out. It'd be like, well, that's because we booked the tour. Sorry, everyone.
For sure. And it is something I think a lot of musicians are going to have to pay attention to, because that incites like my most irrational fear is the thing I've always feared about going on tour was not being able to get home if something happened.
Yes.
And like being forced to like live somewhere that was not, home base. And I know that's like dumb to think about because you could find.
No, I had buddies that were stuck over there. That they were stuck over there, and I'm like, man. And I mean, as far as like the money that we make, especially like on European tours, it's like we make enough to get home and pay the bills. So if we got stuck over there, we'd be screwed. Like I'd be panhandling in like Spain.
And it's funny that you say that because I had a friend who got in lockdown and had to stay in Spain for like 13 months or something. And I think he just recently got back to the UK where he lived. And it's crazy because like I know people who were going over for shows, and then the pandemic happened and they had to rush to try and get on a flight to get back.
Yep.
And I assume, you can find a job anywhere. Yeah. But it's still like freaks me the fuck out to just sit there and to be like, 8,000 miles from your family if something happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Because you're one of thousands of people stuck in the same boat.
Yep. And so, enough with anxiety. So again, back on the upright bass. Now, when you guys track, and obviously you're playing an acoustic electric bass that's got its own pickup and everything, have you considered going with one of like the Warwick electric models or anything?
No, I found a good deal at a local music shop for one of those electric upright basses, the stick style bass,
right?
And I instantly regretted buying it because they're not made for the style that I play. Like if you slap on those things too hard, the whole stick wobbles. Yep. They're more for they're meant more for like a jazz type playing or like a blues type playing where you're playing more, you're not heavily slapping. It's more pizzicato. So I did try that. And the other thing too, because I was like, oh, well, maybe I could have more of a cool, direct kind of electric upright sound. And that was not the case whatsoever. When I track, like if I'm tracking stuff for Koffin Kats, the sound of the upright that I'm going for is like an electrified upright bass. So I use a direct signal, and I've put room mics up before to try to capture the ambiance. But then I usually don't even end up throwing that in the mix. I just go with my direct signal, and I do a weird thing where I split the direct signal into 3 different tracks and mix it all like that.
Okay. Now, do you use any kind of effects or anything on like any kind of reverb or chorus pedals or anything?
I put the I put the click. I put the click in my drum bus, and I actually mixed the click independent of I'm talking about the click of the bass, like when you slap it, that clicky sound. I mixed that in with my drum bus, and that way I'm detaching that sound from the bass itself. I'm thinking of it as a percussive element, and I'll mix that in with the drum group so it's sitting nicely. And then I then split my low end and my mid-range, like upper mids, into 2 other tracks. And then I balance those out so they're sitting nicely. So I don't think about the slap as a part of the instrument when I'm mixing it.
Okay.
When I'm mixing the bass section, I guess.
See, that's wild. I never would have thought to do that. That's when I was mixing our last EP that came out, I came up with that technique, and I liked it because I would always fight the click. I'm like, is it too clicky? Can you not hear it? And then for whatever reason, throwing it over into the drum group and letting it live over there and balancing it all out with the drums, it just works so much better. Absolutely. And I mean, actually sitting down and thinking about it with the percussive aspect of it, it definitely would go with the drum deal, because if you're locked in on the drums, it's going to be in time anyways. So why wouldn't you do it?
You would hope. Yeah.
Yeah, you would hope. You would hope. So definitely. So Reverend Horton Heat Tour coming up here in May and in early June, possibly some more stuff coming out in the later summer. We'll stay tuned on the website.
CoffinKatsRock.com.
Yeah. So check out that. You might get to see some more stuff coming up, popping up here and there, and for another tour going on later in the summer, possibly.
Yep, and we definitely have more tours lined up for in the late fall into the winter months.
Hell yeah.
So the guys and I, there's the 3 of us, and then Joey Drink Tickets, who is our merch guy. Well, Joey, he has an irrigation sprinkler business, and in the summertime, we actually work for him doing sprinkler installs here in Southeast Michigan. So
wow, that's awesome.
So we don't tour too heavy in the summer. When the ground is thawed out in Michigan, we're working putting sprinklers in. So we don't tour too heavy usually in sprinkler season. Like this Reverend Horton Heat tour, we would normally be back to work, but we just didn't want to pass up the opportunity.
Well, and sometimes it makes sense because you guys would be, leather jacket weather bands, I think, and not to say that people don't, like the crazy metalheads like me don't wear leather in 90-degree heat, because we do, but like the spring and the fall and the winter, it seems like, that's when everybody's out and fist out, the leather.
The fall time, when the leaves start turning brown, that's when it gets spooky time. That's when, that's when we get a lot of show offers.
Right, for sure.
Hey, it's Mark Maxwell at Maxwell's House of Music. Listen, all this stuff is now available to purchase on our website. Check it out at maxwellshouseofmusic.com.
We carry all the top brands, like Fender.
We got Gibson.
We also have basses.
We've got ukuleles.
We got drums.
We've got sound gear.
We've got keyboards.
It's Gonna Get Weird is the name of the podcast. We're on season 2, so you have a whole season to get weird with Frank Green and Scott Clark. The best part is there's always laughter.
Oh, yeah, you need to pull that out.
We have national touring comedians, NFL stars, rock stars, your local friends. It always gets weird. Weird answers.
Have y'all ever snorted coke off of a 78 Pinto? No? You ain't no man.
Weird questions.
Who had a bigger cocaine habit, Jock Sutherland or Kaywood Ledford?
Neither one, because they stopped beating their wives.
And weird we never even thought of.
Well, no. My friend is on acid, and I sent my friend to go find a payphone so that I can call and turn myself in for murdering this guy and ruin my life.
We love all types of people, but we don't love all people.
Weird. It's Gonna Get Weird is the name of the podcast, available everywhere. And thank you to Big X Sports Radio for being a proud sponsor of It's Gonna Get Weird. Frank Green, Scott Clark. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here. We're going to ask you some general profile questions about you as a person.
Sure.
Because I like to know what make people tick. I always say that. So,
yeah.
What do you do to get away from music?
What do I do to get away from? So it's funny because now that I've gone into audio engineering and mixing for other bands, it's kind of like I can't get away from it now.
Right.
But and I'm one of those people that, like, once I locked into a subject that I like, and now I spend all my spare time like going on YouTube and finding new tips and tricks and stuff. And it's like the thrill of the hunt of finding new mixing techniques and stuff. And that's what I do in my downtime. But no, these days to not think about music, not think about shows, I spend time with my son, and he just turned 4 years old. So like I focus on,
Hell
and,
yeah.
I try to utilize as much time as I can with him when I'm home. And then the other thing that I focus on is, learning how to do home remodeling, because I have a cottage that I am demoing out and rebuilding. So like I find things that are not the subject of music, and I dive into them heavily.
For sure. And that was another thing that a lot of people did during the pandemic. Picking up the home remodeling skills and, being able to change out things and build their own decks and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that I'm like, well, if I can save $1 by doing it myself, I'm going to try to do it. It might take me 15 extra trips to Home Depot, and I might have to start back over 3 or 4 times, but I'll get it done.
Right. Luckily for me, I just recently moved to a place where I've got like a Home Depot that's less than half a mile away from me. So if I mess something up, it's not that far to just run up there and be like, yeah, I forgot this or whatever.
Yeah. When I was building the studio down here, 'cause where I'm at right now, I'm in my control room, and then I built a tracking room on the other side over here. Excuse me. And I did all the soundproofing, and I did all the double drywall with the air gap between, and do the best I can so that a snare drum, if you're hitting a snare drum at 11 o'clock at night, it's not ringing out into the neighbors' houses or whatever.
Right.
And, so yeah, I also have a Home Depot that's about a 3-minute drive, and I was there I make a list. I should check it twice, but I don't. And then I'm like, oh, well, it looks like I was just at Home Depot 45 minutes ago, and I didn't get 2.5-inch drywall screws. Okay, I'm going back.
Oh yeah. I'm totally that guy too. So, beer or whiskey?
Oh, I used to be a vodka guy. And I was a vodka guy a little too much, and so I what's it been now? I don't really keep count, but I think it's 2.5, almost 3 years that I've been sober.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, and it's my guitar player and I, we right around the same time. We both were enjoying spirits a little too much.
Okay.
We were always a very heavy, hard partying band. And, as we got into our later 30s, the parties, the hangover started to last way too long. And things, personal life and all that shit was being affected by it. So it was best to finally just go, this isn't for us. And, so in the choice between beer or whiskey these days, it's actually, edibles.
Ah, nice. I know it's, is it legal in Michigan or is it medicinal in Michigan?
It was medicinal, and now it's legal. Okay. Now anybody can walk in.
Okay. So see, I'm in Indiana and it's not either right now. So I don't get that.
Yeah, I know.
Luxury.
So we always tuck our supply a little bit deeper in our backpacks when we're traveling through Indiana.
Oh, for sure. Because they suck. But no, serious.
Basically, we sobered up just to become giant potheads.
But regardless of that, congratulations on the sobriety from alcohol, because it can jump up and take you really quick. I've known too many people it has, and the shows themselves too. As much as at the time of when we were shot after shot after shot on stage, we were convincing ourselves that we're like, oh, we're fine. We're doing just fine. We got through the show, but it does affect your performance, and it does affect your judgment and on how well you can perform. I would say that, we're now performing better than we ever have and tighter than we ever have, for the fact that we now abstain from doing any altering things until after we're done playing. For sure. Well, you did say that, once you got into your later 30s that the hangovers lasted longer. And that's very true. I've noticed that even if I don't get hammered, if I just get even the slightest bit buzzed, that I still feel like ass the next day. It's like, what's the saying? One's too many and six ain't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah, I know I can speak for Tommy, my guitar player. We both say it was like our off switches broke. Like, it used to be, it was like we could play a show and go, all right, we've had enough. We got to go do what we got to do. But it ended up being like us having to be carried out of the shows when they were done. Wow. Our off switches broken. But we have a lot of generous friends and fans at the shows that love to drink, and more power to them. It's just, we just have a hard time. We started having a hard time hanging because it was like, oh, here's a shot, there's a shot, there's a shot, there's a shot, there's a Jaeger bomb. And before we know it was like, that's
a lot.
You know how it goes when you overdo it.
Oh, for sure. Been there many a times myself. How do you unwind after a tour?
So when I get home, I take a couple days, and I take a couple days and kind of just do nothing. And then I go, okay, now what do I have to, now I'm back in real life. What do I have to do here now? And that's generally, doing the day-to-day chores. And, we're all just normal dudes. Like, we got bills to pay and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, well, if it's sprinkler season, well, I got to get back to work. Or if it's the winter time and we're home from tours, Tommy, he works for a carpet cleaning company in the winter time, and our drummer Eric, he does tiling on the side, and I make upright bass pickups, and I do the audio engineering for bands and stuff. So that we all have our hands in many different pots besides the band, as far as like making the ends meet.
Definitely. Now, one of the other questions I wanted to ask about the band and the touring and everything, since we're back on that subject, is who's the band dad on tour?
That would be our drummer. E-Ball, our drummer. This is the best advice I can give to anybody that wants to have a band to have longevity and keep and try to keep the same members. Make sure every member in the band has a job, has some sort of a something they have to do. So that way there's never any animosity about like, well, this dude doesn't do shit, and we're always having to pick up the slack for him. Everybody in this band has always had something they have to do. Like, I will be the one that makes the tour posters or make sure that social media posts get out, and Tommy handles the merch store. Eric books all the tours and stuff like that. And, but yeah, so Tommy and I sometimes we eat a little too many milligrams, and, we have to be kind of like, guys, we got to go this way, or this is where the hotel is at, or it's on this floor. And so yeah, he was the wrangler when we were blacked out drunk, and he's the wrangler when we're just goofy as all hell. So.
Nice. And it's nice to have somebody that can do that.
Yeah.
Seriously, because when, as you said, make sure everybody has a job in the band, because if one person's doing it and the other two aren't, because I'm in a 3-piece band as well. And it's always just like, why the hell aren't you guys doing anything? Can't you see that I'm like overworked and overloaded here? And
it's having the right chemistry with your bandmates. The guys I play with, they're basically the closest thing that I have to brothers. We've been, we're approaching our 40s now. We've been friends since we were in high school. There's just we're lucky enough to have that chemistry, but also we very early on in the band all took on individual responsibilities to make sure that this train kept rolling,
For sure. If you could relive any age of your life, what would it be?
So this is one of those things where you ponder it when you're high, because I have pondered this thing before too, because I have to do it with the caveat of, okay, if I can go back, but I don't butterfly affect myself into having, because I wouldn't change anything as far as I love where I'm at and my family and where the band is at. Yes. Do I wish that we had $1 million record contracts? Sure. But there's nothing there's nothing I could go back and do in the past to change that. Whatever happens, happens. But if I could relive a certain part of my life, I mean, I guess I would like to go back and just, relive my teen years, and, maybe, being in high school, I would actually try to pay attention in language class, because when I was in language class, I took Spanish, but I should have took a European language, because that would have been more applicable.
Right.
But
many Mexico tours, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Spanish is just something that you kind of soak in after a while. But like, I wish I would have learned something like, Polish or German. But back then I was like, I'd never have any reason to learn any language like this. And I took Spanish because it was the easiest one out of all of them and whatever. But like, I wish I would have took that more serious.
Okay. That makes sense. I could totally dig that, especially, now with, knowing what you know now, of course.
Yeah. But I also probably wouldn't have applied myself in high school so hard, because I realized that it didn't make a difference. The jobs that I got and where I'm at in life, like my high school GED had nothing to do with that. So in a way, I might just tell myself, well, you don't really have to go to school if you don't want to. Right. You're going to forget all this stuff anyway. All you're learning, I swear. I tell myself there's going to be a device in your hand that's just going to make you super smart but dumb at the same time.
Oh my gosh, right? Oh. Who would you want to see perform live if time or money didn't matter?
Ozzy Osbourne with Randy Rhoads.
Nice. Yeah,
Randy Rhoads was like, and he still is to me as far as like guitar players is just his guitar playing is like the voice of God to me. Like that, like when I was getting into guitar playing and somebody loaned me and I wasn't even a huge Ozzy Osbourne fan. I knew Ozzy's radio songs like Crazy Train and whatever. And Crazy Train was one of the first things I learned how to play on guitar. But somebody gave me the tribute album.
Uh-huh.
And I listened to that thing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and just his guitar playing was otherworldly to me. And so that would be something where if I had a chance to see that in person, at least once,
yeah, it would be amazing. And it's interesting that you say that, because I had a similar experience as well, because one of the first ever Ozzy albums that I got given to me was Tribute. And it was from a guitar player that was probably about 6 or 7 years older than me. And he said, hey, do you want to hear something that's really badass? Listen to this. And it absolutely blew me away because of, Randy's ability was insane, with the classical ability that he had. And then getting into like the actual Blizzard of Oz album, I don't think there's any two better songs on that album than Revelation, Mother Earth, and Steal Away the Night.
Yep.
Just because of that, it's one song that's divided into two, because it's just like, how do we make these two songs sound like one thing? And then you get to that very end of the classical part of Revelation, Mother Earth, and then it just pounds right into Steal Away the Night. And to hear it on Tribute do that, to do it in a live setting, it's like mind-blowing. Completely mind-blowing. So, yeah, I could definitely back that one up, too.
Yep.
Who would you want to meet that you haven't?
So it's another guitar player, as is staying in the theme of musicians. It's another guitar player is Django Reinhardt. Okay. So I for a while, and I still am, I was really heavily into gypsy jazz, and I even played upright bass in a local gypsy jazz kind of New Orleans style band around Detroit for a little while, in between tours about 10 years ago. But I absolutely love the sound of hot club guitar and everything. And that was Django Reinhardt was somebody that like I read everything I could about him. I got really into it, and it just seemed like such an interesting character to meet. So yeah, that would be if I could meet anybody, that or Jimi Hendrix.
For probably the same reason, because the idea behind them.
You see, you have these musicians that there's just something you just want to spend time with these guys, at least just to see what makes them tick. Like, see if like, were these guys like slightly autistic? Is that why they could unlock something so amazing within their playing? Like, you're just, I don't know. Like,
no, you're absolutely right with that.
I've been curious about that, where I've watched Jimi Hendrix interviews and stuff, and it's like, that's his being and his personality. It's like, no, that's not all drugs right there. That's just an odd guy right there that looks at life and looks at the fretboard completely different. For sure. I think that Django was a similar person.
Definitely. I think Jocko was too.
Jocko
absolutely. Was too. I think Phil Lynott was as well. Yep. Just completely otherworldly on another plane of existence mentally were those people.
Those are the type of musicians that like, those are the ones that like I look up to as far as like on a pedestal. Like, those are your rock gods right there. Those are they seem like, they don't seem like human beings.
No, I agree 100% on that. And like to say, bringing back to Randy Rhoads, another one that was just that way. He was just on another world with it. And, a lot of people say that he was a massive jackass to a lot of people. But I think it's just his personality with knowing how good he actually was. I think that just comes off that way, unfortunately. So, yeah, all of those people for sure.
If I was, what was he when he died? Was he 24 when he died?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, if you put that much talent in my body at that age, I don't know how I'd be either.
Oh, for sure. And Cliff Burton was the same age, and for sure, same thing, talent and
yeah. And I mean, why is it that to this day, I mean, you can't mention Metallica without mentioning Cliff Burton. And I mean, to anybody else, be like, oh yeah, that was just a bass player that was in the band and he died. And it's like, no, you don't get
understand. Yeah.
That, like, the reason that Metallica is selling out stadiums and will continue until they're 80 years old is because of what Cliff Burton introduced to those guys.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Hey everybody, let me tell you about the new sponsor to the Metal Forge, Unchained Tapes. They're an independent Pennsylvania tape label. They focus on extreme metal and punk with a killer approach to the tape scene. Visit their web store at unchainedtapes.bigcartel.com now to get your fill of tapes. And for being a Metal Forge listener, enter the code METALFORGE10 at checkout to get a 10% discount on your total purchase. That's unchainedtapes.bigcartel.com. Hey, let me tell you guys about Mercenary Press. They're an independent London label and distributor of all things metal. Mercenary Press delivers the goods from their own independent zine. Trust me, you're going to want to get in on that. To distributing various bands from all over the world, including Cramp from Spain and Sadistic Force from Texas. Visit mercenarypress.bigcartel.com to find out what all they have in stock and what you can order. And for Metal Forge listeners, enter code METALFORGE to receive a discount on your total purchase at mercenarypress.bigcartel.com. Check it out now. Since 2013, there has been a calling from the underground, from the graves of all those unholy, and they decided to make a zine to talk about all of this. Soulgrinder Zine, an independent metal zine to keep you informed on all things metal and horror from the underground. Available in both print and digital formats, they're bringing you the best interviews and reviews out there today. Not only do they do the zine, but they also do compilation CDs. Check them out at facebook.com/soulgrinder.zine and start your subscription now. So I got a few more for you. What album would you immediately go to that it's an absolute playthrough for you?
Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction.
Right on.
That was so that was the album that I'll never forget it. It was 93 or 94, and that was the year those were the years that alternative music broke, as they say, like right. You know, when punk resurgence and everything. Well, for a brief period of time, there was a radio station that switched its format over from rap to become the new rock alternative in Detroit. And they played Green Day, Offspring, NoFX even, and Bad Religion on mainstream radio in Detroit, which is like, it's normal when you're listening to K-Rock and stuff on the West Coast, but right. That's not normal in the Midwest whatsoever, is to hear NoFX on a you know. And so this was, you know, like, this was 93 or 94, and I'll never forget, because I was like 10, 11 years old. And up until that point, I always listened to whatever was your parents played in the car and stuff like that. It was always Young Country, and there was a radio station called Young Country. You know, they played Tim McGraw
and Garth Brooks, and
yeah. So it was I always heard that, or it would always be you know, Take Me Down to Paradise City, Guns N' Roses, and Metallica. The Black Album was just hitting hard at that point, and Nirvana was all over the place, and so there were those bands. But like I was like, oh yeah, that stuff's cool, whatever. But at that, that stuff was already played out to me by the time I was that age. And here I hear Bad Religion, 21st Century Digital Boy. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was Infected was what I heard. I heard Infected on the radio, and that punk rock guitar and the harmonies coming through the radio, I'll never forget it. That just like changed my brain. And I said, I really like this music. I like this stuff. And so for Christmas that year, I got like 3 CDs, and I got my first CD player, and I got Smashing Pumpkins, Spring Smash, and Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction. And that will always be just I can put that album on any time, or if I had to end up on a desert island and I needed to have something to listen to, that would be the one. Yeah.
So I think you inadvertently answered my last question with that single question as well. Because my final question of the day was going to be, what album changed your life?
Yeah, it just like smells, certain smells will make you, they make you time travel, they take you back to a time and a place. Music does the same thing. The right music does. And that album always takes me back to when I was, not that I'm not still excited to hear new music and discover stuff now, but it was that discovery. It was that excitement of like putting the headphones on and trying to listen to every little nuance and turning the volume up at the end of the song just to hear if you could hear the sticks drop on the snare drum, or hear if you can hear those guys talking.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Like that was that album right there was what introduced like that style of listening to me, where it was like, oh no, I am into this.
Yes, definitely. I remember doing the same thing with, it was Megadeth's Hidden Treasures album. And at the very end of Paranoid, because that's like the cover song album. At the very end of Paranoid, you hear Nick Menza keeps playing drums after the song's over, and you hear Dave Mustaine in the studio going, Nick! And Nick just goes, fuck me running, like in the far distance. And you've got the headphones on and you're just listening and you hear it and it's like, that wasn't supposed to be there.
Yep. It's funny because I use that as an example if I'm recording a band. I use that exactly what you were just talking about. I use that as an example of saying like, hey, we don't have to do everything perfect here. And I was like, it's like, we don't have to do everything on the grid, cut and dry. The song is done now. I was like, we can leave little things in there, or if somebody was talking when the microphone was hot, we can leave warts and stuff in the songs because it makes songs more human.
Exactly.
And it makes the band more human.
Definitely. And that's what I like about like the Eagle Vision Entertainment classic album series, where they talk about the makings of the albums. Because
I love those. I nerd out to those.
I really, like making Bat Out of Hell, making British Steel by Judas Priest. It's like
I even watched the Steely Dan one, which normally I wouldn't give a shit about, but I find that stuff so interesting.
Oh, for sure, because it's like I want to get inside people's heads and see how they made these things. Like I brought up just a second ago, the British Steel. Who would have seriously sit there to think that, like, if you took a tray of silverware and were hitting it on the marble floor in Ringo Starr's studio house, that's what the stomps from the Metal Gods is. It's a tray of silverware. And it's like, you don't think about it, but you hear it. And it's like, it's really like, what the hell? But it lends such a big dynamic to that song. And that's always like super cool to me. And I've always wanted to do stuff like that. Like I've always been a Foley artist for films where you make natural sounding sound effects, but they're fabricated.
And there's an absolute artwork to that stuff. And even when making those albums, like these days we have EQs that we can pull up digitally and bend to our will and do anything that we want. We can take a sound and bend it any way we want to now. But these guys were making amazing sounding albums, but these engineers were the guys that were like, hey, we're going to take this microphone and we're going to put this 3 feet back because we need to have this EQ curve for this particular fork hitting the ground or whatever.
Right.
Like there was a lot of stuff that went into these albums that I fear is going to be forgotten about because now we take it for granted that we can just throw a shitty microphone up and actually make it sound halfway decent after processing when there's such an art form to actually microphone positions and all that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Just even with that, and not only saying that, you know, the needlepoint library of sound effects.
Yeah.
You know, including stuff like that in there, you know, like rain tracks and stuff. And how many people, because I know I personally did this in my early days of recording on 4-tracks and stuff like that, where I would hang a mic outside the door when it under the awning when it was raining, just so I could get a real sounding rain track.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, you know, using a digital recreation of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Vic, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody today?
No, nobody in particular.
Yes. True rock moment. True rock moment right there. Seriously.
You know what? I will. I'm going to say, hey, Tom Koffin, eat shit. Because I know we're going to listen to this when we're on the next tour. So, here's what I'm going to shout out is, hey, Tom, at the next gas station, you go with me a Red Bull. There you go.
So, and he has to do it.
I'm setting myself up for when we're on the next tour. I can play this one and be like, hey, check. I don't know, man. The guy on the radio, it sounds like me, says that. So you got to fire me up.
Gotta get me one, dude. Got to. Vic, thank you so much for coming on the Metal Forge this week. This has been super rad to me. This has been a great conversation, a great interview. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next tour, and hopefully you'll make it back to the Louisville area again this summer, maybe. So,
please, by all means, get a hold of me. Before that Reverend Horton Heat show, and we'll meet up and whatnot. So,
hell yeah, sounds amazing for sure. So, off of the latest EP, what do you want me to play out today?
Let's see. I think a song that would be more fitting for your show format would probably be Myrtle Eyes.
So, you heard him. This is Myrtle Eyes.
Come on down! You've never seen this is the place you wanna be, and the rest they will come, and the rest they will die, and no fear you shall feel, release pain from inside. I know where the bones are buried, I know where the blood is drained, I know where the flesh is severed, I know where the souls remain. Murder lies, murder lies, murder lies, murder lies. You crawl inside the soppy flesh. You soak in life, and the rest they did come, and the rest they did die. And no fear did you feel, release pain from inside. I know where the bones are buried, I know where the blood is drained, I know where the flesh is severed, I know where the souls remain. Murder lies, murder lies, murder lies, murder lies. Hell came home. This home is not my house. The splatter on the walls, the windows covered in foil, the cellar door slammed shut. Good night and goodbye. I know where the bones are buried, I know where the blood is drained, I know where the flesh is severed, I know where the souls remain. Murder lies, murder lies, murder lies, murder lies.
Hey, thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of The Metal Forge. I want to take a minute to remind you guys about the Patreon page. Over on the Patreon page, we have the tiers set up to support the production of the show. we feature the Down and Dirty, which is just $1. There's nothing special for that one, it just sends me a thank you because every dollar helps. Then there's the Double Down and Dirty. Much akin to the Down and Dirty tier, everything helps produce the show in the end. You make your presence known, and I appreciate that more than you realize. Thank you for being a dedicated friend and supporter of the Metal Forge. By selecting that tier, you will receive some cool Metal Forge stickers in your mailbox. Now, we're really going to start pounding the metal madness with the Apprentice Metalhead for just $5 a month. By becoming an Apprentice Metalhead, you'll be given early access to the shows, published 24 hours before everyone else gets it. You're also going to receive 3 entries in any contest that we do here at the Metal Forge. You're also going to receive a 10% discount on all Metal Forge merch, and you're going to receive a sweet Metal Forge patch for your battle jacket or backpack. And now, here is the big one. This is the Master Metalhead for just $10 a month. By becoming a Master Metalhead, you will receive a hand-numbered Metal Forge Master Metalhead membership card. You're going to be given early access to the shows as well, with 36 hours before everyone else. You're going to receive 5 entries in any contest that we do here at the Metal Forge. You'll be able to submit audio questions that I will use on the show of you asking questions to the upcoming guests. Remember, timing is everything, and you will need to keep up with the upcoming guest list on the website. You're also going to receive advanced knowledge of any new merch coming out and be given a 25% discount on all Metal Forge merch. And you're also going to get all of the other rewards from the other tiers. So visit patreon.com/Metal Forge Radio today and help support the Metal Forge. Rock on.